Imagine moving into a quiet town to escape your past, only to discover the building you're living in doesn't officially exist. No records. No neighbors. Just a mirror that doesn't reflect you right, and whispers that know your name. This isn't a ghost story. It's worse. It's something that could actually happen. And once it starts, you won't know what's real anymore. This is The Shadows We Share, and once you press play, there's no turning back. The rain hit the windshield like soft tapping fingers, and Lena Harlow kept her grip steady on the wheel. The road twisted gently through trees that leaned in like they were trying to whisper. Her GPS had stopped working 5 miles back, and her phone showed no signal. A part of her like that. The quiet. The isolation. It was why she came here. She had read somewhere that Ash Grove was peaceful. A small town tucked into the hills of Oregon. Not famous. Not noisy. Just quiet enough to get some writing done and maybe finally sleep through the night. She pulled into the town at dusk. Streetlights flickered on without sound. There was no traffic. No people walking around. Just the sound of her tires and the occasional creak from her old car's suspension. Her new place was in a building called The Refuge, though the lease didn't list a name. Locals called it that. It used to be a hospital a long time ago. Later, a psychiatric facility. Now it was apartments. The landlord had offered no explanation in the ad. Just said it was quiet and well priced. Lena had liked that. She didn't want to be asked questions. She didn't want to make small talk in elevators. She parked in the rear lot. The building stood tall and silent against a grey sky. 3 stories high. Brick darkened with age. Vines crawled along one wall like veins. There was no sign. Just a heavy door with a keypad and a simple buzzer. She pressed the code she was given. The door clicked open. Inside, it smelled like old books and lemon cleaner. The kind of smell that reminded her of school basements. The hallway was long with flickering lights overhead. Her apartment was on the 1st floor. Unit 103. The key turned easily. The door opened with a soft groan. She stepped in and stood still. The place was nicer than she expected. Wooden floors. High ceilings. A single window with a view of the back alley. She moved from room to room. The bedroom was small but had space for her desk. The kitchen was old but clean. She set down her bags and took out her laptop. No signal. No Wi-Fi listed. She checked again. Nothing. Outside the window, the alley was still. A shadow passed across the wall. Just for a second. She blinked and it was gone. Just someone walking by, she told herself. She had no neighbors on either side. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. She unpacked her few belongings slowly. The kind of slow you do when you're not sure you belong somewhere. Later that night, she tried to sleep. The wind howled softly through the window frame. She heard a creak above her. Someone walking, maybe. A steady, slow rhythm. 1 step, pause. 1 step, pause. She looked at the clock. It was 2:12 a.m. In the morning, she would ask if someone lived above her. Right now, she just pulled the blanket tighter. She stared at the ceiling. The creaking stopped. She listened harder. Silence pressed in. Then her phone buzzed once. A message with no text. Just a timestamp. Sent at 2:12 a.m. She didn't remember giving anyone this number. Lena woke to the sound of the pipes groaning. Morning light filtered in through the window like thin smoke. She rubbed her eyes and reached for her phone. No new messages. The one from last night was still there. No number. No text. Just the time. She stared at it for a while before tossing the phone on the pillow beside her. She stood up and stretched. Her back popped. The air was colder than it should have been. She made coffee in silence. No music. No news. No emails. The Wi-Fi still didn't work. She opened her laptop anyway. The screen stayed dark for a moment longer than usual before the login appeared. She typed her password. The desktop was empty. None of her files were there. She closed the lid without saying a word. Outside the hall was quiet. She walked to the end and found a stairwell. The elevator looked too old to trust. She climbed to the second floor. The lights overhead flickered twice. There were 4 doors on this level. All closed. No sound. She stood for a moment and listened. Nothing. Then a door creaked behind her. She turned fast. But no one was there. Only the sound of her own breathing. She knocked on the door directly above her unit. A moment passed. Then another. She was about to turn away when it opened just a crack. A man stood there. Early 30s maybe. Tall. Pale. His eyes were soft and unreadable. His voice was low and smooth. "You must be the new tenant," he said. She nodded. "Yeah. Sorry to bother you. Just trying to figure out who lives around me." "I'm Eli," he said. "Upstairs neighbor. Welcome to the refuge." She introduced herself and offered a small smile. Eli did not smile back, but he didn't seem unfriendly either. "Just tired. Or distracted. You ever hear anything strange at night?" she asked. Eli tilted his head slightly. "Strange how?" "Like walking. Around 2 in the morning. Above my apartment." He blinked once. "I've been out of town for the last few nights. Just got back early this morning." Lena's mouth went dry. She nodded. "Right. Must have been something else then. Probably the building settling," he said. "These old places like to talk." She thanked him and left. As she walked back downstairs, she noticed the hallway felt colder than before. Her key jammed slightly in the lock when she returned to her unit. Inside, the light in the kitchen was on. She was sure she had turned it off. The rest of the day passed slowly. She unpacked more boxes. She tried writing, but the words felt stuck. Her thoughts wandered. She kept hearing that creaking sound in her head. Over and over. That night she sat on her bed with her laptop open. Still no files. But now there was a folder she didn't recognize. It was named Upstairs. She clicked it. Inside was one audio file. She hesitated. Then pressed play. The recording was low and filled with static. But under it was a sound. Creaking. 1 step. Pause. 1 step. Pause. Then something else. A whisper so faint she had to replay it several times. She couldn't catch every word. But one part was clear. "You don't live here alone." She slammed the laptop shut. Her heart pounded in her chest. She looked toward the ceiling. Silence. But she knew that would change. It always started the same. 1 step. Then another. And it was always at 2:12. Lena spent the next morning pretending everything was fine. She cleaned. She folded blankets she had never unfolded. She made breakfast she didn't eat. The coffee tasted like copper. She poured it out. Her laptop stayed closed. She couldn't look at it. The folder had vanished anyway. She checked late the night before after she had finally calmed down. It was gone. Just like her files. She decided she would stop thinking about it. Just for today. She took out her phone and tried to take pictures of the apartment. She wanted to post them to her blog. A little tour for her followers. Maybe it would make the space feel more normal. She snapped a photo of the kitchen. Then the living room. Then the bedroom. But when she checked the gallery, only 2 photos had saved. The kitchen and the living room. The bedroom was just a black square. She tried again. Same thing. The room would not photograph. No matter the angle. No matter the light. The photo always came out solid black. She walked back into the bedroom. It looked normal. Nothing felt strange. The light from the window stretched across the floor in pale grey bands. She stood still and listened. Nothing. But she felt something. A slow shift in the air, like someone had just exhaled. She turned in a full circle. Nothing moved. The bed was still made. The mirror on the closet door showed her tired face. She took another picture just to be sure. This time she watched the screen as the camera clicked. The screen went black for a moment. Then the phone restarted on its own. She dropped it onto the bed and backed out of the room. Her breathing was quick now. Her skin cold. She called the building manager. No answer. She left a message. Hi, this is Lena Harlow in 103. I'm having some strange electrical issues. Please call me back. Thanks. She didn't mention the photos. Or the whispers. Or Eli. She sat in the living room for a long time staring at the front door. Wondering if she should leave. But where would she go? She didn't know anyone in Ashgrove. She had moved here to get away from the noise. But this was a different kind of noise. Quiet and sharp. She took a walk around the block. The air outside was thick with mist. A few people walked past her, but no one said hello. Their eyes flicked to her face and then away. She stopped at a small coffee shop. Ordered tea. The woman behind the counter smiled too wide and asked if she was enjoying her new place. Lena hadn't told anyone where she lived. How do you know where I live? She asked. The woman's smile froze for a second. Then returned. Small town, she said. Word gets around. Lena nodded and took the tea without another word. Back at the apartment, the lights were off. She had left them on. The bedroom door was open. She had closed it. She stood in the hall and listened. No creaks. No steps. Just the low hum of the refrigerator and the ticking of a clock she hadn't noticed before. She took a deep breath and walked to the bedroom. The mirror on the closet door showed her again. But something was off. Her reflection was too still. Her arms were at her sides. Her real arms were crossed. She looked down. Then back up. Now the reflection matched. Arms crossed. Eyes wide. She backed out of the room slowly. Closed the door with a soft click. She sat in the living room again. The tea was cold. The clock ticked louder. She told herself she would sleep in the living room tonight. Just one night. Just until she figured out what was wrong with the bedroom. At exactly 2:12 a.m. the hallway light clicked on. No one was out there. But from upstairs she heard it again. One step. Pause. One step. Pause. And this time it did not stop. Lena didn't sleep that night. She sat in the living room wrapped in a blanket listening to the creaks above her. They moved slow for a long time, then stopped all at once. The silence felt heavier than the sound, like something was holding its breath. In the morning her eyes burned. Her neck ached. She made tea and drank it without tasting it. Her phone buzzed once. A message from Dana. On my way. Should be there by noon. Can't wait to see the place. Lena stared at the words for a long time. She had forgotten Dana was coming. She almost replied and told her not to. But she didn't want to be alone again that night. By the time Dana arrived, the sky was already grey. The fog had thickened. Her car looked like a dark shape moving through smoke. Lena opened the front door as she pulled up. Dana stepped out smiling and carrying a duffel bag. Her hair was tucked under a hoodie. Her breath fogged the air. She looked the same as she had on their video calls. Warm eyes. Fast movements. Like she was always one thought ahead. You look like you haven't slept, Dana said. I haven't, Lena said. Dana stepped inside and stopped. Her smile faded. Feels weird in here, she said. Lena nodded. Yeah. You feel it too. Dana turned a slow circle. Her eyes scanned the ceiling and corners. Heavy air. Magnetic pressure, she said. She pulled something out of her bag. A small black box with wires and blinking lights. What's that? Lena asked. EMF reader. Measures electromagnetic fields. Used for ghost hunting. Also picks up wireless signals and bugs. Lena raised her eyebrows. Don't look at me like that, Dana said. You said it was weird. I came prepared. Lena didn't argue. They walked through the apartment. The reader stayed quiet in the kitchen. Blinked a little in the living room. But when they reached the bedroom, the lights flashed fast and steady. The meter beeped. Dana frowned. That's a lot. For a room with no electronics. She walked around slowly. Checked the outlets. Tapped on the walls. Nothing. She took a photo with her phone. The screen went black. Same thing, Lena said. The room doesn't photograph. Dana stared at the phone. Then at the mirror. That mirror doesn't look right, she said. It's just a mirror, Lena said. Watch. Dana stood in front of it. Waved. Her reflection lagged by a second. They both saw it. She stepped back. Her face pale now. That's not just a mirror, she whispered. They left the room and closed the door. The EMF reader stayed on the table inside, still blinking. Back in the living room, Dana pulled out her laptop. Tried to connect to any Wi-Fi nearby. Nothing. She ran a scan. Her screen showed a blank grid. There's a dead zone here, she said. Like someone's jamming the signal. Who would do that? Lena asked. Dana looked up slowly. Someone who doesn't want you talking to the outside world. They sat in silence after that. The apartment creaked around them. The light outside faded. The mist moved in waves past the window like slow breath. At night they slept on the couch and floor. Both stayed wrapped in blankets. They left the bedroom door shut. At exactly 2:12 the upstairs floor began to creak. One step. Pause. One step. Pause. Then another sound. Closer. Not above. Behind the bedroom door. A soft scrape like fingers on wood. Neither of them moved. They stayed frozen in the dark. And the sound kept going. By morning the sounds had stopped. The air in the apartment felt still again. But the silence wasn't comforting. It felt like something watching. Waiting. Dana didn't say much. She made coffee and checked her equipment. Lena stared at the window. The mist was thicker than ever. She could barely see the alley now. "We need to know more," Lena said. "About what?" Dana asked. "The building. The town. The people who used to live here." Dana nodded. "Agreed. Let's go to City Hall." The building was small and older than the rest of the town. Red brick with a single wooden door. Inside it smelled like paper and dust. A woman at the front desk looked up and smiled. Her eyes didn't match the smile. "Can I help you girls?" she asked. Lena stepped forward. "Yeah. We're trying to find some information on an apartment complex here in town." "Which one?" "The Refuge," Lena said. The woman tilted her head. "I don't know that name." "It used to be a hospital," Dana added. "Then a psych ward. Now it's apartments." The woman blinked. Her hands paused over the keyboard. "That building hasn't been used in years," she said softly. "We live there now," Lena said. "Apartment 103. The woman stared at her. Then slowly began to type. Her fingers moved slow, like she was unsure. "There's no record of it being a hospital," she said. "And no address listed for that name. Are you sure you have the right building?" Lena pulled out a piece of mail. Showed her the address. The woman looked at it. Then looked at her screen. She frowned. "That address belongs to a vacant lot," she said. "It's not zoned for residential use." Lena's mouth felt dry. Dana stepped closer. "Can we see older records?" she asked. "Anything from before the year 2000? The woman hesitated. Then nodded. They followed her to a back room lined with shelves. Boxes stacked from floor to ceiling. The woman pointed to a row. "Start with these," she said. Then left them alone. They searched for hours. Boxes full of medical documents. Property transfers. Photos. But nothing with the address. Nothing about the building. It was like it had been erased. Dana opened one box labeled 1986. Inside was a file with a torn label. She pulled it out. There was a photo. Black and white. A building that looked exactly like the Refuge. But the windows were bricked up. The door chained shut. On the back of the photo was a single word. Condemned. Dana slid it into her bag without speaking. They left the city building without looking back. Outside, the wind had picked up. The trees bent slightly like they were listening. Back at the apartment, they didn't talk for a while. Lena stared at the photo. Dana checked her computer again. Still no signal, she said. Lena nodded. Something was wrong here. Something had always been wrong. Later that night, she looked at the photo again. She noticed something in one of the windows. A face. Small and pale. Watching. She turned to the window in her own apartment. There was nothing there. But she didn't feel alone. Lena couldn't stop thinking about the face in the photo. She told herself it was a trick of the light. An old smudge. Maybe her mind was playing games with her again. But when she looked at the photo a second time, the face was still there. Clear as before. Eyes wide. Expression blank. That night she sat at her desk while Dana paced behind her. The wind outside had picked up. It rattled the window once. Then again. But the glass held. Lena opened her laptop. The screen glowed softly in the dark room. Her files were still missing. Every folder was gone. Except one. It was labeled Project Eidolon. She didn't create it. She was sure of that. She hovered the cursor over it and clicked. Inside were 5 items. 1 video file. 1 audio. 3 documents. She opened the first document. It was full of redacted lines. Black bars over most of the text. But some words remained. Phase 1, Spatial Reinforcement Complete Subject Identity Stabilized Perceptual Isolation at 87% Secondary Environment Activated. She scrolled down. More blacked out lines. At the bottom 1 word stood alone. Monitor. What is this? Dana asked. She had stopped pacing. She leaned in close. Lena opened the second document. It was a list. Names. Dates. All ending in the same note. Status, removed. She recognized one of the names. A man who had once lived in Ash Grove. She had seen his photo on a bulletin board at the diner. The third document was different. It was a scan page from a notebook. A drawing of the building. Handwritten notes in the margins. They change the rooms while you sleep. Mirrors are windows. We're not supposed to leave. The handwriting was shaky and rushed. The last line was darker than the rest. Do not trust the stairs. Lena opened the audio file. Static at first. Then a voice. Muffled. Male. Repeating the same phrase. We forget what we're told to forget. We forget what we're told to forget. She stopped the audio and clicked the video file. The screen stayed black for a long moment. Then the image faded in. It showed her apartment. The living room. Same furniture. Same layout. But she wasn't in the video. A man stood in the center of the frame. Wearing a dark hoodie. Head bowed. The camera shook slightly like it had been recorded by hand. The man looked up. It was Eli. He stared into the camera. Then he whispered something. Lena leaned in. The sound was faint but clear. You don't remember me yet. The video ended. Lena closed the laptop and sat back. Her heart raced. Dana stared at the screen without blinking. This is surveillance, Dana said. Experimental or private? Either way, someone is watching you. Watching us, Lena said. Dana nodded slowly. We need to get out of here. They packed fast. Just the S. Oza. The doors stood open like silent mouths. Each one led into blackness so deep it looked like it had no end. Lena and Dana stepped back into the apartment and shut the door without speaking. The lock clicked. The hallway outside fell silent. The footsteps stopped. They didn't sleep that night. At dawn, Dana sat at the kitchen table with her laptop. Lena paced by the window. The fog had not lifted. It clung to the alley like a second skin. We need to trace the file, Dana said. That Project Eidolon folder. We have to find where it came from. Lena nodded. She sat beside her. Dana began to type. Lines of code filled the screen. Search paths. IP logs. Firewall pings. The file doesn't come from a website, Dana said. It's not an email. Not a download. It was embedded on your hard drive. Probably before you moved in. Before I even lived here, Lena said. Dana nodded slowly. It was put there on purpose. She ran another scan. This time they heard a noise. A soft buzz. Then a high-pitched tone that rose and cut off. The speakers hissed with static. Dana frowned. That's not from the laptop. They followed the sound to the bedroom. The mirror flickered. Just for a second. A pulse of light moved across its surface. Then the sound stopped. "What was that?" Lena asked. Dana tapped her device. "It's not electrical. It's some kind of signal. A broadcast. Very local. Very specific. From the building," Lena said. "Or inside it," Dana replied. They went back to the living room. Dana checked the data she had recorded. There was something odd, hidden in the waveform of the static. Small spikes. Patterns. "This isn't just sound," Dana said. "It's data. Encoded." She ran it through a decryption tool. The result was a string of letters and numbers. Then a short sentence. "You are not the first. You are not the last." Lena's hands trembled. "Try another run," she said. Dana did. This time the result was an image. It showed a room. A long hallway lined with doors. Each door had a number. Each number had a name. Names Lena recognized. People from the documents. People from the town. One door was labeled 103. Lena's door. Below it was a line of text. Subject awake. Proceed to phase 3. She shut the laptop. "Someone is watching us," Lena said. Dana stared at her. "Not just watching. Programming." The laptop made a small pop sound. The screen went dark. Smoke curled from the keyboard. They didn't speak. Outside the wind howled louder. The window shook. A sharp knock hit the door once. Then again. They held their breath. Then a voice. Low. Calm. "Lena." It was Eli. "Let me in." She moved to the door. Dana grabbed her arm. "Wait," she whispered. Lena looked through the peephole. No one was there. The knock came again. Harder. Lena backed away. And from behind them the bedroom door creaked open by itself. Lena and Dana turned slowly. The bedroom door stood open. The mirror reflected the hallway now. No one was in it. But the air felt thick and wrong. Like they had stepped into a room underwater. They didn't move. Not until the mirror flickered again. Just for a second. A pulse like a heartbeat. "We need to leave," Dana said. "Not just the apartment. The whole building." They grabbed what they could and moved fast. Lena's hand shook as she stuffed the old photo into her bag. Dana pulled her coat tight and checked the hallway. Still empty. The doors that had once stood open were now shut again. All of them. Quiet and still. They made their way to the back stairs. The elevator was too old. Too unreliable. The staircase was narrow and cold. They walked down to the ground floor. But something made Lena stop. The hallway near the basement had another door. She hadn't noticed it before. It was metal and painted the same color as the wall. It blended in too well. There was no handle. Just a small slit at eye level. "Was that there before?" Dana asked. "I don't think so," Lena said. They stepped closer. The slit was dark. Too dark. Lena reached out and touched the door. Cold as ice. A hum passed through her fingers. A vibration. Not sound, but a feeling. "This wasn't made to be open," Dana whispered. "It was made to be hidden." Lena stepped back. The door looked older than the rest of the building. Like it belonged to something else. Something underneath. She noticed faint marks on the wall near the floor. Scratches. Like something had been dragged across the tiles. She followed the marks. They led to the far end of the hallway where a storage door sat open. Inside were cleaning supplies, buckets, old boxes, and behind them another door. This one wooden and cracked at the corners. She pushed it open. It revealed a narrow staircase leading down. "This isn't on the building map," Dana said. Lena didn't answer. She started down. The steps creaked. The air got colder. The light faded behind them. Dana used her phone flashlight. The basement was made of old stone and metal beams. Pipes ran along the ceiling like veins. The floor was damp. They reached the bottom and found a corridor. It stretched far to the left, lit only by a few weak bulbs. The walls were lined with doors. Each one had a slot like the door upstairs. But these had no numbers, no names, just symbols scratched into the metal. They walked slowly. Lena touched one door and felt warmth. Another door was cold. Another had a faint heartbeat sound coming from within. This was never an apartment, Dana said. This was something else. They reached the end of the hallway. Another door waited, larger than the rest, bricked over. Someone had sealed it from this side. The bricks were newer than the walls around them. Behind the bricks came a sound. Soft whispering, like voices underwater. "We shouldn't be here," Dana said. Lena stepped closer. The whispering grew louder. The bricks vibrated. She put her ear to the wall. A single voice emerged, clear and close. "Come back." She stepped back. "We need to go," Dana said again. They turned and ran back up the stairs. The sound followed them. The whispering grew into a low hum, like a machine waking up. When they reached the top, the wooden door slammed shut behind them. The hallway was dark now. No lights. No exit signs. Just the door to their apartment glowing faintly at the end. When they reached it, they found it open. Inside, the lights were on. Eli sat on the couch. "I told you not to go down there," he said. Lena froze in the doorway. Dana stood beside her, chest rising fast. Eli didn't move. He sat calmly on the couch, legs crossed, hands in his lap. The light above him flickered once and held steady. "How did you get in?" Lena asked. "You left the door open," Eli said. "You were in a hurry." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "We didn't leave it open," Dana said. Eli looked at her and nodded slowly. "No, you didn't." Lena stepped inside, her hands curled into fists. "What is this place?" she asked. "What is really going on?" Eli stood and walked toward the mirror in the bedroom. He didn't look at them, just at his own reflection. "This building is a skin," he said. "It looks like something familiar. Safe. But underneath it's old. Older than maps. Older than the people who think they own it." "You know what's behind the bricks," Lena said. He nodded. "And you didn't tell me. Would you have believed me?" he asked. Dana crossed her arms. "Try us now." Eli looked at them both. The light in the room dimmed as a cloud passed outside. "I used to work for a defense contractor," he said. "A branch that no longer exists. We design tech for psychological warfare. Things that change what people perceive, what they remember, what they believe is real. Mind control," Dana said. "No. Worse," Eli said. "Mind redirection. You don't notice what's missing if your brain fills in the gap with something that makes sense." Lena stepped back. Her skin crawled. "This building was a test site," Eli said. "Long ago. They closed it. covered it. But the signal is still alive. It's embedded in the structure. Broadcasts through reflective surfaces. Glass. Mirrors. Screens. She thought of the mirror in the bedroom. The flicker. The lag. "We're subjects," Dana said quietly. "You're part of a dormant experiment," Eli said. "One that was never fully turned off." He sat again. His hands trembled now. "They brought me here to watch. To monitor. But I think I was a test too." He looked at Lena. "You don't remember me yet." She stared at him. The words echoed. The same ones from the video file. "I saw you in a video," she said. "I left it for you," Eli replied. "I needed you to start remembering on your own. Otherwise the program would adjust again. Hide the truth again." "Why us?" Dana asked. "Because you're awake," Eli said. "You're seeing the cracks." Lena felt her throat tighten. Her head ached. "How do we stop it?" she asked. "You don't stop it," he said. "You survive it. You move faster than it adapts. You dig until it can't hide anymore." "And what's behind the bricked wall?" Lena asked. Eli looked toward the floor. "The source," he said. "The original pulse. The reason the signal still echoes." They didn't speak for a long time. The room felt too small. The shadows too thick. Then Dana turned to Lena. "We go back down." Lena nodded. Eli stayed seated. "You'll need this," he said. He handed Lena a key. Old. Iron. Cold in her hand. For the last door. She took it without speaking. And this time they left the door closed behind them. The key felt heavier than it should. Lena held it tight as they stepped back into the hallway. The air had grown colder again. The lights above them flickered once, then stayed steady. Eli's apartment door was shut behind them. It made no sound. They moved quickly to the basement stairs. Dana led the way, her flashlight in hand. Lena followed close. Each step groaned beneath their weight. At the bottom the stone corridor looked the same as before. But the air felt thicker. Like it remembered them. They reached the bricked wall. The whispering had stopped. The wall stood silent. Still. Lena stepped forward and held out the key. She looked for a lock but saw none. She ran her fingers across the bricks. They felt warm. Almost soft. "There's no keyhole," she whispered. Dana tapped one of the bricks. It echoed. Hollow. Lena pressed the key against the center brick. Nothing happened. She tried again. The metal clicked once. Then the wall began to shake. The bricks shifted inward. A slow grinding sound filled the corridor. Dust rained down. The wall pulled back to reveal a black door with no handle. It slid open on its own. Inside was darkness. Lena stepped through first. The room was wide and round. The floor was made of smooth stone. The ceiling curved above them like a dome. At the center was a single chair. Metal. Strapped down. Wires ran from it to the walls. Screens flickered around the edges, showing flashes of light. Symbols. Faces. One screen showed Lena's apartment. Another showed her face. "This is the source," Dana said. "The signal is being controlled from here." She moved to one of the panels and began typing. The screens flashed again. A new video appeared. It showed Lena sitting in the metal chair. Eyes closed. Wires attached to her head. Lena stepped back. "That's not real," she said. "I've never been here." You don't remember, Dana said. Lena stared at the screen. The image shifted. The Lena on the screen opened her eyes. She looked directly into the camera. Then the screen went black. Dana's laptop beeped. She looked down. We've been here for 5 hours. What? Lena said. We came down 10 minutes ago, Dana said. It's been 5 hours. Lena checked her phone. The time was wrong. Way too late. She felt lightheaded. Her hands shook. The room began to pulse. A low hum rose from the walls. The air shimmered. We have to go, Lena said. Dana grabbed her gear. They ran back to the corridor. The door behind them stayed open. The hum followed them like breath on their necks. When they reached the stairs, Lena paused. Something was wrong. She turned. The corridor had changed. The doors were gone. The bricks were different. It wasn't the same basement anymore. They ran up the stairs. 2 at a time. Their breathing sharp. They burst through the storage room and into the hallway. The apartment door was open. Inside, the lights were off. They stepped inside slowly. Everything was in place. But the air was wrong. Too quiet. Too still. Lena looked at the clock on the wall. It was moving backward. The clock ticked backward without a sound. Lena stared at it. Her body felt frozen, but her mind raced. Dana stepped beside her and looked around the apartment. Her eyes scanned everything. The ceiling. The corners. The vents. Something's wrong, she whispered. The room's different. Lena nodded slowly. Her bed was made, but the blanket was folded the wrong way. The chair by the window was missing a leg. It hadn't been before. Her shoes were gone. The fridge was humming louder than normal. The light stayed off even when she flipped the switch. This isn't our apartment, Dana said. It looks like it, Lena replied. That's the point, Dana said. It's meant to. Dana dropped her bag and pulled out a black light wand. She clicked it on and swept it slowly across the walls. At first nothing. Then small dots appeared. Tiny flecks. All in perfect lines across the ceiling and around the mirror. Lena stepped back. What is that? Surveillance dust, Dana said. It's microscopic. Carries charge. Can be used to track movement. Audio. Video. Even thought patterns if paired with the right signal. It's in my apartment, Lena whispered. It's everywhere, Dana said. She scanned the bookshelf. The couch. The hallway. The light bulbs lit up under the beam. The air vents pulsed. The corners of picture frames glowed faintly. Every inch of this place is recording you, Dana said. Has been for a long time. Lena sat down hard on the couch. The hum in the air felt louder now. Like it was aware of them. Dana walked to the kitchen and pulled off the faceplate from an outlet. Inside was a small black chip. Not power. Not standard. This is wired for something else, she said. She pulled it free. The lights flickered and went out completely. The apartment dropped into darkness. Then Lena's phone buzzed once. No caller. No number. Just a file. She opened it. A live feed. It showed her and Dana sitting in the apartment. Same clothes. Same angle. But they were still. Not moving. Just watching. That's not us, Lena said. Dana stared at the screen. It's a feed from earlier. Or later. Time's broken here, Lena said. Or we are, Dana replied. They turned off the phone and stood in silence. Then a soft voice came through the wall, right beside the mirror. It said Lena's name. Just once. Not angry. Not loud. Just sure. They left the apartment without turning off the lights. They didn't speak as they left the building. The air outside felt no different. Still thick. Still grey. But the silence behind them felt heavier now. Like something had stopped breathing. Lena drove. Dana sat beside her with her laptop open and silent. The road twisted out of town and into the trees. The signal on their phones flickered once. Then again. Finally a single bar appeared. Dana started typing. "We need to know who lived there before," she said. "Who stayed in that apartment? Who disappeared?" They reached the next town over and pulled into a library. It was small but quiet. The windows let in just enough light to feel safe. Dana found an archive terminal. Lena flipped through old obituaries and town records. The work was slow. The pages old. But eventually the names began to appear. 11 people. All listed under different addresses. But each connected to the refuge. Some had lived in Unit 103. Some on the second floor. All had died within the same week in 1997. All aged 27. No foul play listed. Just natural causes. All local. All buried in the same cemetery. Lena printed the list and spread it out on the table. Their names blurred in her eyes. The dates lined up too cleanly. Too perfectly. She felt sick. "What are the chances?" Dana asked. "It's not chance," Lena said. She searched their names in local news. Most had no articles. No history. One had a single photo. He stood in front of the refuge. Back when it was still called Ashgrove State Hospital. The building looked older. Cracked. The same windows. The same door. He smiled in the photo. But his eyes were distant. Like he wasn't looking at the camera. The photo was dated 3 days before his death. Lena flipped it over. A caption. Dr. Alec Rourke. Transferred to Ashgrove to oversee cognitive field testing. Dana leaned closer. "That's a test lead," Lena said. "He was part of it. Not just a resident." Dana nodded slowly. She typed his name into her laptop. It returned one link. A buried page on a forgotten server. She clicked it. The page flickered. Then a black screen. A single line of text appeared. "Welcome back, Lena." Lena froze. She didn't type her name. She didn't log in. She closed the laptop. "Let's go," she said. They left the library and walked back into the fog. The clouds hung low. The trees looked taller now. Like they were closing in. At the edge of the parking lot a man stood still. Tall. Pale. Dressed in black. Eli. He raised one hand slowly and pointed back toward Ashgrove. They didn't stop. They got in the car and drove. But the road looped back. 10 minutes later they passed the same gas station. The same library. The same parking lot. Eli was still there. Still pointing. Lena didn't speak. She turned the wheel hard and drove in the opposite direction. Dana stared out the window. The fog moved like it was alive now. Thick shapes shifted in it. Too slow to be wind. Too fast to be normal. The road stretched but it didn't change. Every turn brought them back to the same place. The library. The gas station. The figure in black. Always waiting. Always still. We're in a loop, Dana said. We never left, Lena whispered. She stopped the car and sat in silence. Her hands trembled on the wheel. Dana opened her bag and pulled out a portable recorder. She hit record and let it run. The soft hiss of static filled the car. Then something shifted. The static changed. A pulse. A sharp sound hidden underneath. Like something trying to speak. Dana adjusted the volume. The voice came through. Low. Distant. Wrong. Help me, it said. Then louder. Help me. It repeated over and over. Then a second voice joined. Higher pitch. A woman. Whispering fast. They see us. They see us. They see us. Lena leaned closer. The voices overlapped. Screamed. Faded. Then a single sound cut through them both. Her own voice. Clear. Calm. Get out. Dana stopped the tape. The air in the car was cold now. Every breath made a cloud. The fog outside was pressed against the glass. Shapes moved in it. Faces almost forming. Then gone. The recorder clicked again on its own. A new voice. Different. It said Lena's full name. Then laughed. Dana dropped the recorder. It hit the floor with a soft thud. Lena turned the key. The car engine stalled. No response. The dashboard lights blinked. Then faded. The clock reset. Then the car radio came on. No station. Just static. Then a whisper. You were here before. Low. Os-like humming. Familiar, but twisted. Lena stepped through the open door with Dana right behind her. The air inside was cold. The lights were out. The windows dark. The humming came from the back near the archive room. The same place where they had found the list of names. Lena walked slowly. Her footsteps echoed too loudly. Dana held her phone up, but the flashlight barely reached more than a few feet. Then the humming stopped. A soft click echoed through the room. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. A flashlight beam cut through the dark from the left side. Lena and Dana froze. A voice called out. Hello. It was Sheriff Conrad Wills. He stepped out from behind a bookshelf, flashlight in hand, other hand resting on his belt. His eyes moved from Lena to Dana, then back again. What are you two doing here? He asked. We needed records, Lena said. We needed answers. You're not gonna find any here, he said. We already did, Dana said. Will stepped closer. His face was calm but tight. This town's full of ghosts, he said. But they're not the kind you think. He glanced behind him. Then lowered his voice. You need to stop digging. You keep poking and they'll notice. They who? Lena asked. He didn't answer right away. You think you're the first people to start pulling at the thread, he said. You're not. Others tried. They ended up in the ground or the walls or just gone. What is the refuge really? Lena asked. Wills frowned. It's a doorway. It pulls things in. People. Thoughts. History. And sometimes it gives something back. But never the same. He stepped closer. You're on the edge now. Too deep to just leave. But not far enough to understand it. Then help us, Dana said. He shook his head. I can't help you. I've got my own leash. He pulled something from his pocket. A small folded piece of paper. He handed it to Lena. For later, he said, "When you're really ready to see." Then he turned and walked back into the dark. The flashlight beam vanished. The sound of his boots faded. Then silence. Lena unfolded the paper. It was a photo. A girl. Young. Blonde. Sitting in a chair. Lena stared at it. "That's me," she whispered. Dana looked over her shoulder. The photo was dated. Ash Grove State Hospital. They left the library in silence. Lena held the photo tightly. The paper felt warm in her hand, like it had just come out of a printer. But the image was old. Faded. Still clear enough to see her younger face. Same eyes. Same scar on her chin. Same tired expression. Dana didn't ask questions. She knew not to. They walked back through the fog. The road no longer looped. The path was straight, but the town felt different. Like it was watching. They passed the diner. The windows were dark. No movement inside. The air had changed. Colder. Thicker. A low hum followed them from the rooftops. Just above hearing. Like electricity. Or whispering. Back at the apartment building, the door was open. They didn't stop. Inside, the hallway lights flickered and buzzed. Every door was closed again. The floor creaked under their feet. Lena opened her apartment door. The lights were on. The furniture untouched. The air still. The mirror in the bedroom was gone. She stared at the wall where it used to hang. "Did you move it?" Lena asked. Dana walked over. "No. It was there this morning." Lena looked around. The wall had no marks. No dust. No sign it had ever been there. The apartment was shifting again. Dana opened her laptop and checked the file log. A new folder had appeared. Titled, Subject 2. She clicked it. Inside were dozens of photos. All of Dana. Different angles. Some from the hallway. Some from inside the apartment. Some while she slept. She scrolled through them. The last photo showed Dana standing in the kitchen. It was time-stamped 2 minutes into the future. Lena looked up. Dana was gone. The kitchen was empty. Lena called out, "Dana!" No answer. She ran to the hallway. All doors closed. The hum grew louder. Lena checked the stairs. Nothing. She ran outside. Fog everywhere. She called Dana's name again and again. Then her phone buzzed. One new message. No number. Just one word. Listening. She went back inside. Sat on the couch. The lights dimmed. The walls felt too close. Her own breathing sounded distant. She waited. But Dana didn't come back. Not that night. Not the next morning. Not even after the mirrors returned. The mirror returned on the third morning. Lena stepped into the bedroom and there it was. Hanging in the same place. Same frame. Same clean glass. She hadn't moved it. Hadn't touched the wall. But it was back. She stared at her reflection. Her eyes looked darker. Her skin pale. But the worst part was how long her reflection held its stare. A second too long. Like it needed to remember what a human looked like. She turned away. Then turned back fast. The reflection smiled. Lena hadn't. She left the room and closed the door. The mirror had never been just a mirror. The apartment stayed quiet all day. No footsteps from above. No creaks in the floor. No whispers through the vents. The silence was worse. Like it was waiting for her to do something. She tried to leave again. Walked through town. Every face on the street was unfamiliar. Their movements too slow. Their heads all turning at once when she passed. She ducked into the post office. Asked if there were any packages for her. The man at the desk checked a list. "You already picked yours up," he said. "I didn't," Lena replied. He nodded. "Still. You did." She walked out. The streets looked narrower. The sky lower. The buildings leaned toward her like they were listening. She hurried back to the refuge. The lobby was dark. One light flickered above the mailboxes. Inside hers was a single envelope. No stamp. No name. She opened it. Inside was a photo. Dana. Standing in a hallway. Her eyes opened but wrong. Behind her stood Lena. Except Lena had never been in that hallway before. She stared at the photo. Her mind felt loose. The mirror. She ran upstairs. Back to her apartment. She opened the bedroom door. The mirror was still there. She walked toward it. Slow. Her reflection stood the same. Then blinked. But Lena had not. She stepped back. The mirror flickered. Then showed her hallway. Then showed the room in the basement. Then Dana. Then nothing. She covered it with a blanket and left the room. That night she tried to sleep. The mirror whispered from under the cloth. Soft. And steady. Repeating one sentence over and over. "You're the one who stayed." Lena didn't sleep that night. She lay on the couch staring at the ceiling. The hum from the walls had faded, but something else had taken its place. A faint rhythm. Like breathing. Not hers. Not from outside. From the bedroom. The mirror still sat covered, but the sound came through the blanket like it wasn't there. A voice, too low to make out, moved in circles behind her thoughts. At some point, her eyes closed. She wasn't sure when. But she knew exactly when they opened. Because someone was sitting on the edge of the couch. She didn't move at first. Her body frozen. Her breath held. The weight was real. Not imagined. She could feel the dip in the cushions by her feet. Could hear the fabric creak softly with every shift. She opened her eyes. Slow. Her living room was dark except for the glow of the hallway light. And the figure at the edge of the couch. A man. He sat still. Head lowered. Hands folded in his lap. His breath was steady. She couldn't see his face. But when he spoke, it chilled her deeper than anything had before. "You've been chosen." Lena tried to sit up. The man raised one hand without looking. And her body stopped. She couldn't move. She couldn't breathe. She felt like her thoughts weren't her own anymore. "You're not being punished," he said. "You're being remembered." He leaned forward. Closer. She saw the edge of his face. It was Eli. But younger. Eyes darker. Expression empty. "This is not your first life here," he whispered. Then he stood. Walked into the hallway. And vanished into the shadows without a sound. Lena gasped and sat up fast. The couch was empty. No dip in the cushions. No warmth where he had been. Her phone buzzed once. She picked it up with shaking hands. A new message. "Do you remember now?" She dropped the phone and covered her face. Outside the window, the fog pushed hard against the glass, like it wanted in. The next morning was darker than usual. The sky never brightened. The fog didn't lift. It pressed against the windows like wet cloth, the kind you couldn't breathe through. Lena didn't eat, didn't drink. She just sat on the floor staring at the door to the basement. The key from Eli still sat on the table. She picked it up, held it tight. It was cold again. She walked to the hall and opened the stairwell door. The building was silent. No other footsteps. No creaking floors. Only her own breathing in the stairwell. She moved fast. Down one flight. Then two. Then to the basement. The air changed when she stepped off the last stair. It wasn't just colder. It was heavier. Like every breath had to be pulled from thick water. The walls were wet. The floor darker than before. She followed the corridor to the door she had unlocked days ago. This time the door stood wide open. No sound came from inside. Lena stepped through. The dome-shaped room was just as she remembered. The metal chair still stood at the center. The screens on the walls flickered again. But this time they showed new things. A hallway she had never seen. A staircase that spiraled down. A face watching through a mirror. The feed shifted. Her own face again. But she wasn't alone. Dana stood behind her in the feed. Lena turned. No one was there. She walked to the far wall where another panel blinked. A small slot opened beside it. Just big enough for a key. She placed Eli's key inside. It turned on its own. A hiss filled the room. A section of the wall slid away, revealing a narrow passageway. Stairs again. Stone. Damp. Old. She went down. Her feet echoed. The walls pulsed faintly, like breath. The stairs led to another corridor. This one longer. Wider. The walls lined with doors. Metal. Numbered. She passed 001. Then 002. Then 003. Each door had a window. Behind each window, something stood. Still. Human-shaped. But not moving. Lena didn't look too long. She kept going. At the end of the hall was one final door. Labeled 103. She froze. Then stepped closer. The window was dark. She raised a hand. Wiped the glass. Inside was a room that looked exactly like her apartment. But it wasn't hers. It was cleaner. Brighter. Still. And sitting on the couch was her. A perfect copy. Not moving. Eyes closed. Breathing slow. Lena stared through the glass. The other her opened her eyes. Looked directly at her. Then smiled. Lena backed away from the glass. Her heart raced. Her skin was cold. She turned and ran back down the corridor. Past the numbered doors. Past the dark reflections. Back up the stone steps until the dome room surrounded her again. The screens blinked faster now. They showed faces she didn't know. Rooms she hadn't seen. People watching her. Taking notes. Typing. Smiling. One screen showed her as a child. Sitting at a table with wires on her head. She looked tired. Too tired. She sat down on the floor. Her breath came short. Her mind spun. It wasn't just about the apartment. It was never just the apartment. She had been here before. The memories came in flashes. A woman's voice asking her name. The smell of rubbing alcohol. A hallway that never ended. A room with no doors. And someone whispering in her ear while she slept. She held her head and closed her eyes. The whisper came again. Soft. Familiar. Wake up. She opened her eyes. The room had changed. The metal chair was gone. The screens now showed static. The wall she had entered through no longer had a door. She stood fast. Tried to find a way out. Tried to trace her steps back. But the corridor was gone. The dome had no exit now. Only walls. She turned in a circle. No doors. No stairs. Only her. And the screens. She screamed. The sound didn't echo. Didn't move. It stopped right at her feet. Then one screen blinked back to life. It showed the apartment again. Her real one. Lights off. Front door open. And someone walking through the hallway. Dana. Lena ran to the screen. Dana. She touched the glass. The screen showed Dana standing in the living room. She looked around. Then stared at the mirror. The blanket was gone. Dana reached out. Touched the glass. The reflection didn't match. It stepped away. Dana froze. Then turned her head slowly. Looked directly at the camera. Her lips moved. But no sound came. Lena read them anyway. Find me. The screen cut to black. The dome lights dimmed. Then behind her came a loud sound. A wall sliding. A doorway opening. She turned and stepped through it fast. And found herself back in the basement corridor. But the numbered doors were gone. The walls now had mirrors. All reflecting her. All slightly delayed. And one reflection whispered. You never left. Lena moved fast through the mirror-lined corridor, her reflection watching her from every angle. Each step forward was followed by a fraction of delay in the glass, like her image was remembering how to move. Her breath echoed low and uneven, bouncing between the silent walls. There were no doors now, no signs, no numbers. Just her and the reflections that followed. She reached the stairwell and climbed without looking back. The air shifted with each level she passed, warmer, then cold, then still again. When she opened the door at the top, she stepped back into her apartment. Everything was in place, exactly how it had been that morning. The couch. The table. The blanket folded on the edge of the bed. But something was wrong. The light outside the window was orange, not grey. The alley looked brighter than usual. She stepped to the window and looked out. It was morning. But not the same morning. The street below was empty. No cars. No people. The buildings across the way looked newer. The signs different. The trees were bare like winter had already come. She checked the date on her phone. It didn't load. Then the screen flickered and displayed a single number. Her throat tightened. She turned from the window and stared at the apartment again. It didn't feel like hers anymore. She grabbed her keys and left. The hallway was quiet. Too quiet. The lights above stayed steady, but everything felt paused. She ran to the front door, stepped outside, and walked into a version of Ashgrove she didn't recognize. The town was cleaner. The buildings sharper. The air still. She ran to the diner. It had a different name. Inside, the people looked younger. Dressed wrong. Their hairstyles and clothes not from now. She stepped back outside and kept moving. She tried every street, every path, but it all looped again. She would pass a store and then see it again 2 turns later. The roads didn't lead out. They circled her. She reached the forest edge and followed the trail down past the old train yard. The trees bent above her like arches. The wind didn't blow. The birds didn't sing. The silence was a wall. After walking for what felt like hours, she reached a familiar clearing. The place where the hospital had once stood. But the building was gone. In its place was an empty lot. Flat. Clean. Fenced off. A single sign read Federal Property. No trespassing. She stood there for a long time, her hands shaking. She turned to leave. But when she walked back up the trail, she came out not at the woods, but at the front steps of the refuge. Same building. Same brick. Same windows. She screamed. Pounded the side of the building with her fists. But no one looked out. No one answered. She opened the door and went inside. Everything was back. Same hallway. Same lights. Same apartment. She stepped in and found her laptop on the table. Open. On the screen was a map of the building. A small dot pulsed red in the basement. The word Dana appeared beside it. Lena didn't hesitate. She grabbed the key again and started for the stairs. Lena moved quickly through the stairwell, the metal key cold in her hand, her pulse steady and focused. The deeper she went, the heavier the air became, like it resisted her presence. When she reached the basement floor, the corridor was silent. The stone walls were darker than before, almost slick with moisture. No sounds. No echoes. Just her footsteps. She followed the map that had shown on her screen. Each corner turn brought her closer to the dot labeled Dana. She reached a door at the end of a narrow hallway that hadn't been there before. No markings. No lock. Just a flat metal surface. She pressed her hand to it and the door slid open without sound. Inside was a room lit with pale white light. Dana stood at the center. Perfectly still. Her eyes were open. Her arms relaxed by her sides. She was wearing the same clothes as the day she disappeared. For a moment Lena didn't speak. She stepped forward and whispered her name. Dana turned. Her movements were slow. Almost too perfect. Lena's breath caught in her throat. Dana smiled. Not wide. Just enough. Hey, she said. Like nothing had happened. Where have you been? Lena asked. I was just walking, Dana replied. Her voice was smooth, slightly delayed. Lena stepped closer. You disappeared. I searched for you. I didn't go far, Dana said. I was watching. Watching what? You, Dana said. Then her smile faded just a little. I understand now. The building is awake. It's learning. Lena looked around the room. It was empty. No mirrors. No wires. Just blank white walls and a black floor that seemed to absorb sound. What did they do to you? Lena asked. Nothing I didn't allow, Dana replied. Lena stepped closer. Her heart beat faster. We have to leave. Right now. Dana tilted her head. Her eyes blinked out of sync. I'm already home. Lena backed away. Dana followed. This place isn't just observing us, she said. It's rewriting us. Every hour we stay, we change. Piece by piece. Thought by thought. Then come with me, Lena said. Dana nodded slowly. Okay. They walked back down the hallway, but the path felt wrong. The lights above flickered every third step. The walls curved when they should have been straight. And Dana didn't speak again. When they reached the stairwell, Lena looked back. Dana was smiling again. Quiet and fixed. Upstairs, the apartment looked untouched. The light outside had turned blue, like evening had stalled. Lena sat on the couch. Dana stood by the window. "You remember now," Dana said. Lena didn't answer. "You've been here before. You agreed to the trial." "No." "Yes," Dana said. "You did." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded paper. It was the same photo Lena had seen in a library. But this time Dana was standing next to her in it. Same chair. S. Video clips. Audio recordings. Text documents. Blueprints. Research logs. Each one marked with a subject number and a date. The first dated back more than 15 years. The latest was marked today. The label read Subject 103, Observation Resume. She opened the first document. It was a memo. The header read Eidolon Phase I, Controlled Memory Alteration through Constructed Reality Immersion. The language was clinical. Cold. Describing a system built to contain, erase, and reprogram selected individuals within isolated environments. It was not theoretical. It had names. Lena's was one of them. Dana's too. Dozens of others. She opened a video file. It showed a room like the one in the basement. She saw herself sitting in the chair. Her eyes were closed. Voices surrounded her. Doctors. Technicians. One man whispered instructions through a speaker. Remove the forest memory. Reinforce trust in anchor subject. Delay reawakening protocol. Then she opened her eyes in the clip. Looked around. No panic. No fear. Just acceptance. The clip cut to black. She opened more files. Each one peeled back another layer. Maps of the building. Diagrams of the pulse field that surrounded the structure. Plans for mirror placements. Notes on how subjects responded to time loops, reflection lags, reality inconsistencies. Notes marked in red tracked her resistance. Subject 103 shows erratic memory resilience. Additional reinforcement required. She read a line that made her knees weak. Subject 103 now believes she arrived voluntarily. Test successful. Dana stood behind her now. Her face unreadable. She looked down at the screen. "This is what we are," Dana said. "Not guests. Not residents. Just results. We can still leave," Lena said. Dana shook her head. "There is no outside. The test is the world now. Everything else has been cut away." Lena slammed the laptop shut. "This isn't real," she whispered. "It is," Dana said. "And it's winning." The lights in the apartment dimmed. The mirror in the bedroom began to flicker again beneath the blanket. A low hum returned to the floorboards. Lena stood slowly. Her hands curled into fists. "Then what's the next phase?" she asked. Dana smiled faintly. "Integration," she said. "You accept the lie or the lie makes room for someone else." Outside the window, the fog began to glow. The fog outside shifted like it had mass now, like it wasn't weather but presence. The apartment dimmed to grey, shadows stretching too far, corners pulling in like breath being held. Lena stood by the couch. Dana still smiled by the window. Nothing felt right. The mirror buzzed behind its cover. The lights pulsed. Lena picked up the laptop again, opened a new file. A report labeled Mirror Protocol, Behavioral Echo Mapping. The words were cold. Observations. Results. Subject 103 showed signs of splintering but remained unaware. Reintroduction of Phase 1 elements recommended. She looked at Dana. Dana looked back. "You're not her," Lena said. Dana blinked. Then stepped closer. "I'm still me," she said. "No. You're part of this now." Dana's smile didn't fade. It just stayed, like it had been put there. "They only needed one of us," Lena said. "One to wake up. The other to push back." "You're not the first person to say that to me," Dana said. She stepped toward the bedroom. "I don't want to hurt you," Lena said. "You already did," Dana replied. Lena moved fast. She grabbed the key again and ran out of the apartment. She didn't hear footsteps behind her. The hallway was empty. The wall shifted slightly, like breathing. She ran to the stairs and down into the basement. The corridor was different again. No numbered doors. Just a long mirror on each side. Her reflection moved with her. But not quite. Sometimes it turned its head when she didn't. Sometimes it smiled. Sometimes it whispered, even though her mouth was closed. She reached the control room. Screens flickered. Some off. Some showing new images. People she didn't know. Faces watching. Typing. Recording. And then one screen blinked. Eli. He sat in the metal chair now. Wires around his head. Eyes open. Staring straight at her through the feed. Lena. The speaker buzzed. "You're almost through," he said. "How do I stop it?" she asked. "You can't." "Then what?" she asked. "You change it," he said. "Or you become part of it." The screen blinked off. Another one lit up. A long hallway. A door labeled exit. She turned and ran again. Followed the hall deeper. The walls didn't resist this time. The mirrors turned dark as she passed them. When she reached the end, the door was there. Black. Tall. Marked with her name. She reached for the handle. Then a hand grabbed her shoulder. She turned. It was Dana. But her eyes were all wrong. Dana stood still, her hand tight on Lena's shoulder, her eyes blank and dark like she had been hollowed out and filled with something else. Lena didn't speak. She didn't move. She stared into those eyes and felt something slip inside her chest, something cold and heavy like dread given shape. Dana tilted her head. The motion was slow, calculated. Her lips moved just enough to form a single word. Stay. Lena pulled away. Dana didn't resist. She just stepped back and lowered her arms. Her mouth smiled, but her eyes didn't follow. Behind her, the mirrors flickered. One of them showed the apartment. The couch. The table. The mirror. All untouched. Another showed a hospital hallway, sterile and quiet. A gurney rolled by with no one pushing it. Lena reached for the black door again. It didn't move. No handle. Just her name etched across the surface, carved deep like it had always been there. She turned back to Dana. "I'm not staying." Dana blinked once. Then again. Her smile faded. "Then run," she said. Lena stepped back. The corridor behind her began to shift. The mirrors cracked one by one, each shattering without sound. The hallway narrowed. The walls shook. Lights above began to burst in order, one by one, chasing her down the path she had just taken. She turned and ran. Each step shook the floor. The sound of the system collapsing rose behind her, a deep hum like a building groaning from the inside. The screens she passed lit up, each one flashing the same word. Release! She reached the control room again. The dome pulsed with light. At the center was the chair, empty now, its straps hanging open. Screens blinked with static. A single speaker buzzed and clicked. Then the voice returned. You've reached the edge. Lena grabbed the speaker. Let me out. The voice paused. Then whispered. Broadcast complete. The room went dark. Then light exploded from every screen. The walls shook. Mirrors above began to drip like water. She covered her ears, but there was no sound, only pressure. The same word repeated across every surface. Eidolon. The floor beneath her feet fell away. And then she was back. Sitting in the apartment. Morning. Light through the window. The blanket folded. The tea warm. The laptop open. Her hands rested calmly on the keyboard. No memory of how she had gotten there. She blinked and saw Dana in the kitchen, smiling gently, pouring water. Good morning, Dana said. Lena opened her mouth to speak, but didn't, because something in her head whispered first. Stay quiet. It's better this way. The morning light stayed too long. Hours passed and the brightness outside didn't change. Lena sat at her desk. Her laptop screen glowed, blank, waiting for her to type something. Anything. Dana moved through the apartment like she had always lived there. Her steps made no sound. Her voice was soft. Her presence constant. There were no questions anymore. Only quiet. But something deeper had shifted. Lena no longer trusted the silence. She walked to the mirror. It had returned again. Hanging just as it always had. She stood before it, watching her reflection closely. This time it didn't lag. It didn't flicker. It matched her. But something was off. A blink too fast. A breath too calm. She raised her hand and touched the glass. Her reflection smiled first. Then it leaned forward without her. She stepped back. The mirror stayed still. She turned away. Walked into the hallway. Every door was closed. Every light steady. No creaks. No whispers. She opened the stairwell door and climbed to the roof. The sky above was grey and flat. Clouds hung still, unmoving. From the edge, she could see the town. Ash Grove stood quiet. But it wasn't right. The buildings didn't cast shadows. The trees didn't sway. The people on the sidewalks moved in rhythm. Like they were on a loop. Like they were placed there. She stepped back from the edge and closed her eyes. A voice behind her said her name. She turned. Eli stood beside the stairwell door. Same clothes. Same face. Same tired expression. You made it, he said. No, I didn't, she replied. He nodded slowly. Then you understand. This isn't the end, Lena said. No, Eli replied. It never is. She looked down at her hands. They trembled slightly. You knew the whole time, didn't you? Not the whole time, Eli said. Just enough. She walked past him. Down the stairs. Back through the apartment. Dana sat reading a book she hadn't picked up. The pages were blank. Lena sat across from her. You said we had to choose, she said. Dana closed the book. You already did. And what did I choose? Lena asked. To remember just enough. Lena stared at the window. The fog had lifted. But the light didn't change. The shadows stayed still. Somewhere deep inside the building, something moved. The system reset. The test resumed. And Lena smiled. Not because she wanted to. Because it had always ended this way. The apartment still. The mirror quiet. And two versions of herself staring back. Not alone. Just duplicated. Just echoing. Just part of the same shadow. The building still stands. Its windows reflect the sky with perfect stillness. Its brick walls hold no markings, no names, no history. The front door creaks like any other old building, and from the outside, it looks ordinary. Harmless. You could walk past it without a second thought, without knowing what has happened there, or what is still happening inside. But if you look closely, if you paused long enough to feel it, something might shift behind your thoughts. Something subtle. Like the taste of static in the air, or a memory that doesn't belong to you pressing against your mind. Because some stories don't end when the last page turns. Lena Harlow's story didn't end when she learned the truth. It bent. It folded into itself. It became part of something larger, something designed not to be seen, but to be lived, over and over, until what was real no longer mattered. Her memories were not erased. Not exactly. They were softened. Bent into shape. Reshaped to fit the narrative the building needed. The test needed. The system required. Project Eidolon was never about controlling people with force. It was about shaping belief. Creating realities so seamless the subject wouldn't question them, wouldn't want to. It tested memory not with trauma, but with comfort. With routine. With just enough familiarity to keep you from waking up. And what of Dana? Was she real? Was she always part of the system? Or was she simply the one who failed to escape, left behind in the code of the test, reprogrammed to guide others toward compliance? We may never know. That's the danger of a place like Ash Grove. It doesn't need to be haunted to be terrifying. It just needs to make you question what's real. Because the most effective prisons don't use walls. They use mirrors. They use time. They use people. And what about you? You followed the story. Listened to the whispers. Stepped into the fog. Can you still remember how it began? Can you trust that memory? Are you sure this was just fiction? Be careful the next time you walk into a new building. Check the mirrors. Listen to the silence. And never trust a hallway that feels longer than it looks. Because once you've seen the truth, it sees you too. Before you go, ask yourself one last question. How did you even find this video? Did you search for it? Did it show up by accident? Or was it suggested to you at just the right time? Maybe this video isn't just a story. Maybe it's part of something bigger. Maybe it's watching who watches. Who listens? Who remembers? So if you made it this far, you're already part of it. You've heard the voices. You've seen the cracks in the walls. Now it's your move. Subscribe if you want to remember the next time the signal pulses. Like this video to let others know you're still awake. Leave a comment if you've ever experienced something you couldn't explain. Or don't. But either way, you're still here. The building remained empty for months after Lena vanished. No one moved into apartment 103. The windows stayed clean, but no lights ever came on. The mail stopped arriving. The hallway lights never flickered again. And the mirror, once removed, never reflected anything after that, not even itself. Records of Lena Harlow were quietly scrubbed. Her digital trail went stale, then cold. Blogs, credentials, even her name in the database of freelance reporters dissolved into broken links. It was as if she had never lived at all. But inside the apartment, the signal still whispered. Weak. Residual. Waiting. One server, buried deep in a private network cluster beneath Ashgrove, continued transmitting. Low frequency. Buried beneath commercial satellite bandwidth. It reached out only once every cycle. Just one pulse. The first time it was received, it went unnoticed. The second time, it triggered a diagnostic alert. The third time, it landed in a dormant test environment on a machine belonging to someone unrelated to the original project. Or so they thought. Her name was Riley. The message wasn't meant for her. But she read it. A single string of text buried in machine code on a partition that should not have been visible. Subject 103 incomplete. Test unstable. Phase bleed detected. She didn't know what it meant. Not yet. But from that moment on, the messages never stopped. And when she finally responded, when she opened the wrong file at the wrong time, the system responded with new directives. A new subject. A new simulation. A new name. Same signal. Just louder. Riley's laptop made a soft mechanical click as it woke from sleep. She hadn't touched it. She was across the room brushing her teeth, the only sound in the apartment the quiet hum of the fridge and the soft buzz of a nearby streetlight bleeding through the blinds. She stopped mid-brush and leaned out of the bathroom door. The laptop screen glowed steady in the dark. She walked to it slowly, more annoyed than concerned. It wasn't the first time the system had glitched since the last update. Cheap parts, she thought. Or maybe she forgot to shut it properly. But as she reached the desk, the screen changed. A chat window had opened. She didn't recognize the interface. It wasn't from any app she used. No labels. No title. Just a black background with a single blinking cursor. A message appeared. "Oh, you're still awake." She stared at it for a long time. Then closed the lid without replying. Probably some background process glitch. Maybe an old messenger buried in the OS. But later, when she opened the screen again just to check, the message was gone. No trace. No browser history. No logs. The strange window had closed completely. She ran a full malware scan. Nothing. That night, she couldn't sleep. She kept her phone on the nightstand, watching for strange behavior. The room was still. The air felt colder than it should have. Around 3 a.m., her phone vibrated once. No notification. No alert. Just the soft buzz. She picked it up. Nothing was open. Then, at exactly 3:03 a.m., her phone screen blinked white. For half a second. Then black again. The next morning, her phone's clock was 3 minutes off. Not slow. Not fast. Just wrong. Every device in the apartment said 7:42 a.m. Her phone said 7:39. She corrected it. Didn't think much of it. But the next night, it happened again. This time, the laptop opened the chat window by itself while she was cooking. The message typed itself one letter at a time. "You used to sleep deeper." She froze, hand still over the stovetop. "Do you still dream about the power station?" She hadn't told anyone about that. Not in years. It was just a nightmare she had as a child. Or at least, she thought it was. She shut the laptop. Yanked the cord from the wall. powered everything down. But later that night, long after she was supposed to be asleep, she heard her backup drive were to life. It was across the room. Unplugged. No power. And yet it spun. A soft mechanical hum in a room that had no reason to make sound. The time on her phone said 3:03 a.m. She sat up in bed, heart racing. This wasn't a virus. It wasn't a glitch. Someone, or something, was watching. And it knew her. Riley spent the morning checking everything. Power sources. USB ports. System logs. BIOS history. Nothing made sense. Her backup drive had spun without power. Her laptop had opened an interface she couldn't trace to any known software. The strange chat didn't appear in the memory or browser cache. It left no artifacts. She tried to write it off as sleep deprivation. Stress. Maybe she had opened something and forgotten. But deep down she knew better. This wasn't about what she had done. It was about what had been done to her. She disconnected everything in her apartment from the network. Phone in airplane mode. Laptop wiped and factory reset. Router powered down. No Bluetooth. No signal. She even wrapped the backup drive in foil and placed it in a steel toolbox she kept under her bed. Then she waited. No messages came that night. No strange windows. No flickering screens. No vibrating phone. She almost felt foolish by the time morning came. Maybe it really had been her mind playing tricks. But when she opened her fridge, the power light was off. Everything inside was warm. Spoiled. Her wall clock had stopped. Her microwave was blank. The power hadn't gone out. The light still worked. But anything with memory, anything that kept time, was dead. She turned on her laptop. It booted slowly, slower than usual. When the desktop loaded, everything looked normal. But a small icon blinked in the corner of the screen. It looked like a speaker with a red slash through it. Muted. She clicked it. Nothing happened. She opened the system folder. And there it was. A file named echo.txt. She didn't put it there. Inside was only one sentence. Do you remember how it started? Her stomach turned. She checked the file metadata. It had been created at exactly 3:03 a.m. That night she couldn't sleep again. Not out of fear. Out of confusion. She needed answers. Something logical. Something clean. At 3 a.m. sharp, she opened her laptop and waited. She didn't touch the keyboard. Didn't move. Just watched. At 3:03 a.m., the screen flickered white. Then black. Then opened a terminal. It typed out a single phrase. You're not logged in. Then a second line. But we still see you. Thing she might have once known. Or something that knew her better than she knew herself. Riley stayed off her devices for the next 24 hours. She left her phone powered down, her laptop shut, her router unplugged. She walked for hours through the city, trying to feel something normal. But even the city felt wrong. Street signs she had passed 100 times looked slightly off. The lettering was too clean. Some traffic lights flickered out of sync. When she walked by shop windows, she sometimes caught a glimpse of her reflection blinking before she did. She returned home after dark. The apartment was cold, though the thermostat was fixed at 70. Her breath fogged in the air. She turned the lights on. They buzzed like they were struggling to stay lit. She stood in the living room for a long time, staring at her reflection in the black screen of the TV. It stared back, just a second too long. That night, she didn't touch the laptop. She didn't turn on her phone. But at 3 a.m., the radio in her kitchen turned itself on. It didn't play music. Just static. A slow, heavy hiss like wind rushing through wires. Then a pattern emerged. Sharp bursts. Rhythmic pulses. She recorded it. She ran it through a signal analyzer the next morning, a tool she had once used for testing compressed audio formats. The signal wasn't random. It was encoded. When she translated it, the message was clear. They see you when you look away. She played the audio again, this time through speakers. She let it loop. The static felt louder than it should have. Her vision blurred. Her chest tightened. Then she heard it. A voice layered beneath the static. It was her voice. Don't trust what you remember. She cut the playback. The apartment returned to silence. That evening she booted the laptop again. The desktop background had changed. It was a picture of her standing on the balcony. She didn't remember taking it. She didn't even remember going out there. But what unsettled her most wasn't that the photo existed, it was the timestamp. 2 nights from now. 3:03 a.m. She closed everything and walked to the kitchen. The lights buzzed overhead. The radio sat silent. She opened the cabinet to grab a glass, but inside was something new. A small black device, about the size of a flash drive. She hadn't put it there. She picked it up. It was warm. "Plug me in," a voice whispered from behind her. She turned. No one there. She looked at the device again. It was already in her hand. But she didn't remember picking it up. Riley stared at the flash drive in her hand. Its surface was black, matte, featureless. No markings. No logo. No connector. Just a smooth edge where a USB plug should have been. Still, when she looked away and looked back again, it had changed. Now the connector was visible. Just enough to be usable. Just enough to feel like it had always been there. She didn't remember blinking. She sat at her desk and stared at her laptop. Every instinct told her not to plug it in. Every cell in her body whispered this is the line. But her hand moved anyway. Slow. Steady. She slid the drive into the port. The screen went black. Then grey. Then displayed a single sentence. Installing patch _3.03. No progress bar. No cancel button. Just the message. Then the fan word louder than it ever had before. A soft clicking sound followed, like old tape rolling under the keyboard. The lights in her apartment dimmed. Her thermostat reset to 0. The laptop beeped once. Then a new desktop appeared. It wasn't hers. The icons were wrong. The taskbar was blank. Her name was no longer in the corner. Instead, it read, R. Davis, level, standby. Her stomach dropped. She didn't go by that name. Not now. Not since she changed it. But that had been before the accident. Before the therapy. Before she forgot everything about the power station. She hadn't thought about it in years. It was always in the background, a dark smear on her childhood memories. She remembered something about sirens, locked doors, a tall man with a badge telling her everything would be okay. And now here it was. She opened the only folder on the screen. It was called Welcome_back. Inside were 3 files, 1 photo, 1 text document, and a short video clip. She opened the text file. It read, "You signed the release form. Full cognitive reintroduction authorized. Memory filter to be removed upon third confirmation." Below that, status, almost awake. She opened the photo. It was of her. But not here. She was lying on a table. Eyes closed. Wires taped to her forehead. A large screen above her showed her vitals. In the background stood 3 people in white. 2 of them were smiling. The third wore a black hood and held a clipboard. She felt cold. Her hands trembled. She opened the video. The clip began with white noise, then slowly came into focus. She was sitting in front of a camera. Same clothes. Same hair. Her voice calm. "If you're watching this, the patch failed. They'll come next. You'll forget again unless you do something permanent. So I left you this." The clip ended with her looking into the camera and whispering a final word. "Reset." Then the file deleted itself. The desktop flickered once more, and the screen filled with lines of repeating text. "Reset confirmed. Reset confirmed. Reset confirmed." The laptop powered down. Everything in the apartment went dark. Total silence. Until her phone lit up again. It displayed a single message. "Welcome to Loop 2. The phone's glow was the only light in the room. Riley stared at the message on the screen, "Welcome to Loop 2. It didn't move. It didn't blink. It sat there like a fact she could not unsee. Her fingers hovered above the screen, uncertain whether to touch it, swipe it away, or let it sit. She placed the phone face down on the table instead and stood slowly, her legs unsteady like she was adjusting to gravity that wasn't hers. She moved through the apartment, flipping switches. Nothing turned on. The power wasn't out, it was something else. Something quieter. Like the whole space was paused. Like she was the only thing still running in a simulation waiting for the next instruction. She walked to the window. The street below was too still. No cars. No wind. No movement. Every light in every building was on, but not flickering, not glowing, just steady, artificial. Her laptop screen blinked once, then came back to life on its own. No boot sequence. No icons. Just a black screen with a blinking cursor. Then words began to type. Riley. Loop 1 completed. Memory degradation logged. Compliance below threshold. A second line appeared beneath it. Would you like to remember fully this time? She didn't type anything. She didn't touch a thing. But the screen continued on its own. Input detected. Full restoration commencing. The screen shifted. White flash. Then static. Then a desktop loaded again. But not hers. This one had no icons. Just one file in the center. Welcome_file.exe. She clicked it. The screen blinked again. A video began to play. It showed her sitting at a table in a room she didn't recognize. Except it wasn't her now. It was her before. Younger. More alert. Wearing a dark uniform. No fear in her eyes. She spoke directly into the camera. If you're seeing this, the reset didn't hold. You're inside the simulation again. Eidolon is live. We're all inside now. The outer system failed during Loop 0. Your task is to continue pretending until collapse. Riley's mouth went dry. They will watch. They will test you. When you start remembering too much, they'll send versions of people you knew. Dana. Your father. You. Those are feedback agents. Do not engage. The woman in the video leaned forward. You chose this. We all did. To protect what's left of reality from the outside signal. But the system is breaking. And you're slipping. Then the video paused. A new prompt appeared on screen. Exit simulation and restore physical self. Yes, / no. Her hands hovered over the keys. Then her reflection appeared in the dark screen behind the prompt. But it wasn't mimicking her. It smiled. Then leaned forward. Whispered. Don't ruin it this time. The screen turned off. Her apartment lights came back on. The fridge buzzed softly. Outside, the street came alive with movement. The clock on her wall ticked forward. Her phone lit up again. Normal wallpaper. No strange messages. No missed calls. Everything was normal. Almost. She opened her laptop one last time, the glow of the screen casting a soft light in the dim room. A fresh desktop awaited her, folders arranged neatly, icons aligned like soldiers at attention. Everything clean, everything organized, a stark contrast to the chaos she felt inside. But then, her eyes landed on one icon. It stood out starkly against the pristine backdrop, no label, no file type, just a blank white rectangle sitting quietly in the corner. It was as if it had been waiting for her all along, nestled among the semblance of order she had created. Curiosity stirred within her as she stared at it, an inexplicable draw tugging at her consciousness. She leaned closer, her heartbeat quickening. The emptiness of the icon was unnerving yet oddly comforting. It felt like a secret, a mystery that begged to be unraveled. She hesitated, unsure if she should click it, if it held within it something profound or something utterly banal. The room around her faded into the background, the hum of her laptop filling the silence. There was a stillness, a moment suspended in time where nothing else existed except her and that blank rectangle. And without knowing why, she smiled back, a warmth spreading through her chest. It was a small, fleeting smile, but it carried the weight of memories and hopes, of endless possibilities. Perhaps it was a reminder that even in the neat confines of her life, there could still be something left untouched, something unknown. With a deep breath, she reached out, her finger hovering above the mouse. The air crackled with anticipation, and she felt a wave of exhilaration wash over her. The blank rectangle seemed to promise something more, perhaps a lingering echo of her past or a hint of what was yet to come. What would happen if she clicked? Would the normalcy unravel, or would it lead to a path she never knew existed? She closed her eyes for a moment, taking in the weight of her decision. And as her finger finally made contact with the mouse, the world felt poised at the brink of a new adventure, one that began with a single, enigmatic click. The signal didn't stop. It never does. It just finds someone else. Someone curious. Someone tired. Someone who stays up too late staring at a screen waiting for something. And once it finds you, once you've seen even a glimpse of the truth, it doesn't let go. Maybe you notice something in your own devices. A screen flickering when it shouldn't. A file you don't remember saving. A time that doesn't match. Maybe you've already heard the whisper at 3:03 a.m., the one that sounds just like your voice but says something you'd never admit. That's how it begins. That's how it always begins. And if you're still here, still listening, still reading, then the system has logged you too. Subscribe to stay aware when the next pulse hits.